Hello, this is the brief history of Atari home consoles. So let's get started. The beginnings. Atari was first started in Sunnyvale, 1972 by Nolan Bushnell and Ted Damney. Their company wasn't called Atari at the time, it was called CZG Engineering, is that how you pronounce it? They designed Computer Space, the first commercial arcade game for Nutting Associates. On June 27, 1972, they changed their company's name to Atari Inc. Soon after, they hired Al Alcorn, who helped design the popular game Pong. In 1975, Atari's subsidiary, Cyan Engineering, started work on a console which could play 4 of Atari's arcade games at home. The starting price was $199, which was around $900 through fluctuation. This was where the Atari 2600 was born. The Atari 2600. The Atari 2600 was originally called the Atari Video Computer System, but they changed the name to Atari 2600 after the successor was released. It was a home video game system that could play Atari's arcade games, and soon after, other third-party game developers like Activision made games for it. The Atari 2600 was bundled with 2 controllers, 2 paddle controllers which were conjoined, and the game Combat, later Pac-Man. It launched with 9 simple games and 2 KIB cartridges. It was popular at the time because Taito released their game Space Invaders to the 2600, but this led to competition. Mattel and Coleco released their own home console systems, the Intellivision from Mattel and the ColecoVision from Coleco. But Atari was still ahead because of their company getting licenses to many arcade hits, but their popularity slowly deteriorated because of the video game crash of 1983. The video game crash in 1983. Atari invested heavily on 2 select games, Pac-Man and E.T. the Extraterrestrial Game. Pac-Man sold well, but people weren't that pleased with it because of the downgrade of the arcade version. But people say that the E.T. game was the one that made the video game crash. There was a lot of hype for the E.T. game because people were thinking that it was going to be awesome, but once the game got released, people were quite angry. The problem Atari faced was that there was a lot of games, but a lot of them seemed rushed. This ended market relevance for the Atari 2600. The Atari 5200. The Atari 5200 Super System, or simply called the Atari 5200, released in 1982 with hopes from Atari that it would sell well. It was made to compete with the Intellivision, but was later competing with the ColecoVision shortly after it got released. The ColecoVision had Nintendo's Donkey Kong as its pack-in title, while the Atari 5200 had Super Breakout as their pack-in title, which was released on the Atari 2600 before. The Atari 5200 controller had a joystick and a numeric keypad, plus a start, select, and pause button. The 360-degree joystick offered way more control than the 2600's joystick. During a press conference at which the Atari 7800 was announced, Atari revealed that the 5200 was being discontinued after only 2 years on the market. The 5200 sold only around 1 million units, which was pretty bad compared to the 2600's over 30 million unit sales. Atari 7800. The Atari 7800 was a revolution for Atari. It was the first console that had backwards compatibility with 2600 games without paying more for modules. It was sold at $140, which was an affordable price for what it had in store. It launched in 1986 and was discontinued in 1992, which was a better console lifespan than the 5200. The console had better graphics than any Atari console before it, yet it still had the 2600's audio chip, and a different joystick and pole position too as the pack-in title for it. The Atari Jaguar. This is the last major home console for Atari. The Atari Jaguar was said to have 64 bits, yet it only had 2 custom 32-bit processors. Flare Technology was the company who designed the system. They also designed the Canton Panther system. It launched in 1993 and discontinued in 1996. The Jaguar had a library of only 50 games, which is very little compared to the 2600, which had 526 games. The Jaguar also had a CD add-on, which also had very little games, only 15 to be exact. The Jaguar only sold 250,000 units, which is also very little. It discontinued because of Sony's PlayStation and Sega Saturn launching. The Jaguar didn't stand a chance. This led Atari out of the console market and in as a game developer company. Conclusion: Atari had a good run, but as they tried to stay in the console market, each attempt never did sell as well as probably one of their greatest achievements, the 2600. Atari lives on today, re-releasing their popular games on newer platforms, but also making brand new ones as well. The Atari flashback systems were published by Atari from 2004 to 2011. After that, they were made by AtGames under license from Atari. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!